What are the red flags in a client?
If they only want you to execute the ideas that they have.
But you didn't mention if they are annoying. कौन सी एक marketing mistake है जो brands हमेशा करते हैं?
Brands are not making marketing mistakes. The startups make marketing mistakes, like credit.
Schbang was the agency that came out with the Poonam Pandey campaign.
We had a meeting with the entire workforce of Schbang, telling them that look, we've made a mistake.
What is the kind of client that an agency should not go with?
जहाँ पे कंपनी के लिए marketing strategic priority ना हो.
Are employees replaceable?
Tough question.
One small mistake on an ad can make things go wrong. Has that ever happened?
Spend करने थे 1 लाख, spend हो गए 10 लाख.
Talented लोगों को आप retain कैसे करते हैं?
Growth, पैसा. Best workplaces are the ones where you have merit that wins.
Your co-founder Akshay Gurnani has left Schbang after 10 years.
Emotionally, it didn't impact me as much.
Many people say that Schbang has a toxic work culture. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Aleena Dissects. Today's podcast I've been wanting to do since a year now, so I'm very excited about it. We have with us Harshil Karia. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
being
Aleena
here.
Dissects.
I like that that's my identity now. I'm going to split this into 3 sections. I'm going to do a little bit of a masterclass where I ask you stuff about agency because you've built one of the largest independent agencies in India. So I want to be able to help the people who are looking at coming into this field and are in this field and are struggling. And then we'll move on to Schbang and how you built that and Level Supermind. And then I have some personal questions for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm seeing that you're like waiting for my questions. Okay. But first I have to begin with, if you had to start Schbang all over again today, what would you do differently?
I think the word everybody is talking about, और आजकल सब लोग बात करें AI की. अगर मैं आज शुरू कर रहा होता, I would have started an AI first agency. मैं देखता कि workflow में कौन से modules है which need to be bettered using AI, and I would have pitched that as a solution to brands. Because today also what we have to realize is I started in this market I think 2008 में. And 2008 में it was a fairly open market. Yes, you had the biggies, but Dentsu was not Dentsu. So for those of you listening who are not following advertising, there are major holding groups. There is WPP, there is Dentsu, there is Omnicom and IPG, which is now merged together, but it used to be Omnicom and IPG. And there's Dentsu, there's Hakuhodo, which is Japanese, and there's Havas. 6, 7, 8, however you slice it. So, there was all of these giants were there, but market में opening बहुत सारी थी because none of them had specialized digital offering, specialized social media offering, specialized SEO offering. तो उनके पास वो सब थी नहीं. तो आज हमें देखना है कि क्या offering है नहीं जिससे एंट्री मार सकते. But now the other thing which is more challenging in today's market is the market is moving so fast.
Right.
So a skill gap which is spotted is getting covered so fast. But I would still bet on AI. और मैं AI फर्स्ट एजेंसी शुरू करता.
When you say AI first, तो आप ऐसी कौन सी चीज़ करते जो कि everybody else is not already applying? Would you give AI service? Would you have AI service in your company?
In a way it's exciting because मैं वही कर रहा हूँ. In a way. Because I'm trying to see कि market में gap क्या है, कहाँ पे आगे जा सकते हैं. So, for example, one of the things that I see that gets lost in delivering the service is client agency की बहुत सारी बातें होती है. वो कहीं पे कैप्चर नहीं हो रही है. Number 1. Number 2 is there's a lot of institutional knowledge which is not getting captured. So what do I mean by institutional knowledge? जैसे कंपनी की ब्रांड गाइडलाइन हो, Number 1. Number 2, कंपनी ने जो रिजेक्ट किया हो, कंपनी ने जो अप्रूव किया हो, कंपनी के नंबर्स ओवर द लॉन्ग पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, क्लिक थ्रू रेट्स, ओपन रेट्स, व्यू थ्रू रेट्स, एंगेजमेंट स्पाइक्स कभी हो रहे. वो मैं ये सब चीज़ें, मिनट्स ऑफ द मीटिंग, ओपन रेट्स, क्लिक रेट्स, बेसिकली द परफॉर्मेंस डेटा अक्रॉस फुल फनल, which is top of funnel, influencer spends, emailer spends, वो सब का डेटा एक साथ में, ब्रांड गाइडलाइंस, कंज्यूमर कॉल्स के ट्रांसक्रिप्ट्स, रिजेक्टेड पोस्ट, अप्रूव पोस्ट, रिजेक्टेड एड्स, अप्रूव्ड एड्स, रिजेक्टेड स्क्रिप्ट्स, अप्रूव स्क्रिप्ट्स, वो सब एक जगह पे लाता. और वही मैं कर रहा हूँ, उसको बेसिकली क्लाइंट का एक सेकंड ब्रेन बना सकते हैं.
ओके, आई वुड अज्यूम कि ये ऑलरेडी होता है, एजेंसी ऑलरेडी हैज द डॉक्यूमेंटेशन सब चीज़ का.
डॉक्यूमेंटेशन है बट एक जगह पे नहीं है,
ओके.
और उसको एआई से लिंक नहीं किया गया है. सो बेसिकली अगर ये हो जाए, इफ एआई कैन बी द सेकंड ब्रेन ऑफ द क्लाइंट एजेंसी रिलेशनशिप, मैं वो एक चीज़ करता. सेकंड, सो मैं आपको सिर्फ बता रहा हूँ कि मैं सोल्यूशंस कौन से सोल्यूशन पे काम कर रहा हूँ. तो ये एक सोल्यूशन है जिस पे मैं काम कर रहा हूँ. सेकंड एक सोल्यूशन है जिस पे मैं काम कर रहा हूँ, विच इज़ कि व्हाट एआई कैन डू इज़ इट कैन रीड क्रिएटिव कॉन्टेक्स्ट एज वेल. सो one massive solution which I'm working on is that you can take all the ads run by a client. AI can start tagging all those ads on 25-30 different parameters. And you can then see which parameters are working to drive hook rate or click-through rate or view-through rate. So ads में भी क्या creative optimization हो सकता है. You can use AI at scale to do that. So that is the other thing. And then of course, to build out an AI brain which actually visually can design like the client's way of thinking.
Okay.
Is also solutions that are coming in place now with Firefly API, etc. So those are solutions that I would build out. So solutions which are allowing brands to be AI first to market in terms of quality of service, in terms of agility of thinking and responsiveness to consumer, and from the standpoint of this visual innovation. But those are the areas that I would really go. Then फिर मैं AI अलग अलग चीज़ों में यूज़ कर रहा हूँ, बिकॉज हम लोग रिक्रूटमेंट काफ़ी ज़्यादा करते हैं. तो हम लोग एक रिक्रूटमेंट AI बनाए हैं कि सब जो रेज्यूमेज अप्रूव हुए उनको टैग करना, और जो रेज्यूमेज रिजेक्ट हुए उनको ट्रैक करना, और एक इंटरनल AI बनाना है विच इज़ एबल टू स्क्रीन एप्लीकेंट्स फास्टर. The other thing which we have built out as AI is interview AI. तो कैंडिडेट के साथ इंटरव्यू लेना और फिर स्क्रीनिंग भी वहीं पे हो सकती है. तो सम ऑफ दीज एक्सपेरिमेंट्स, मे बी बिल्डिंग दीज एक्सपेरिमेंट्स फॉर क्लाइंट्स of using APIs to build out use cases inside the client is what I would really try to focus on.
Okay, so you would build these for yourself, or would you build these for the clients and for the brands as a service to give to them?
Both.
Okay.
So as a self means I stand for it, and to the client means I have that creativity of solutioning for you around it.
And one question that's coming into my mind is, I hear a lot of Sam talk about OpenAI, and he says that you should build something that OpenAI will not be able to build on top of it, because otherwise it's like you said, it's moving so fast that it will just then be able, OpenAI will come up with that solution.
If you decode it, what he's basically saying, build a more niche use case. Because OpenAI will always build. So OpenAI will always be able to build what you're building. But if I decode that, what he's basically saying is build something that is a hyper niche that has enough of a market, which can add technical value, but is not so lucrative also that OpenAI will cannibalize it.
That is, one doubt that people have, that if today I'll create an AI, but agar OpenAI wo hi service bana lega, to everything I do is gone to waste.
Yeah, but OpenAI is taking large bets, right? So what OpenAI wants us to do, any of the AIs want us to do, is use the API tokens to build on top of that. So anything that you use as API tokens to build on top of that will work.
Okay.
Or rather, anything that you use as OpenAI tokens, API tokens to build on top of, but is a niche use case and is not a mass market use case which everybody can use. OpenAI is not necessarily going to take that bet.
Understood. Now, coming from the agency point of view, we have understood what you would do today. But बहुत सारे लोगों का सवाल ये होता है कि हमें clients एक तो कहाँ से मिले, कहाँ से, if you're just starting out, मैं कहाँ से client ढूंढ के लेके आऊँ. Second is, मैं अगर client है, मैंने pitch बनाया है, ये मेरी services है, तो फिर मुझे उनको कितना charge करना चाहिए, वो कैसे समझ में आना चाहिए.
I think traditionally this industry has worked on a cost plus pricing model. So the first thing you have to do is to serve that client well, depending on who that client is. Firstly, you want to have a client which has for whom marketing is important. And how do you evaluate अगर client के लिए marketing important है या नहीं, is कि उनका annual business plan क्या है, उनका annual turnover target क्या है, और उसके हिसाब से उस annual turnover target में marketing का role क्या है, उस कैटेगरी में मार्केटिंग का रोल क्या है. जैसे कंज्यूमर ब्रांड ज़्यादा मार्केट करते हैं बिकॉज ब्रांड बनाना बहुत ज़रूरी है. ऑटो ब्रांड्स जितनी गाड़ियाँ बेचना चाहते हैं उनके लिए ब्रांड बनाना बहुत ज़रूरी है. अगर एक ट्रेडिंग बिजनेस हो जहाँ पे ब्रांड बनाना ज़रूरी नहीं है तो शायद वो मार्केटिंग का बजट बहुत कम रखेंगे. शायद उनका उनका टर्नओवर 1,000 करोड़ का हो बट वो प्योर ट्रेडिंग का 1,000 करोड़ का टर्नओवर है और उनके लिए शायद अगर ब्रांडिंग का बजट 20 लाख हो या 25 लाख हो तो फिर आपको उसके हिसाब से देखना है. तो पहले तो टर्नओवर क्या है वो कैटेगरी का, और सेकंड इज़ वो कैटेगरी में टिपिकल मार्केटिंग स्पेंड्स क्या होते हैं और बेस्ट ब्रांडेड प्लेयर्स कौन है. अगेन इफ देयर इज़ अ मार्केटिंग कॉम्पिटिशन then the business will spend on trying to catch up. Because if your competition is a better brand, you'll want to have equally a good brand.
Okay. So from what I understand from what you're saying is, एक आप ये find out कर सकते हैं कि उनका spends क्या है, उनका turnover क्या है, turnover क्या है, और दूसरा आप बोल रहे हैं कि मार्केट में उनकी जैसी जो कंपनीज है वो कितना स्पेंड करते हैं मार्केटिंग पे. ये इन्फॉर्मेशन न्यूबी को कैसे पता चलेगी?
आज तो अभी ChatGPT में मिल जाएगा.
Okay.
बिकॉज आप बेंचमार्किंग बेसिस पे कर सकते हो. इट्स हाउ यू आस्क द क्वेश्चन कि this is the category I'm in. Within this category, who are the top 5 players and typically what kind of marketing spends are they doing? If it's a publicly listed company, then you will be able to get that through the quarterly transcripts. और अगर privately listed company है तो आपको, अगर आप रजिस्टर ऑफ कंपनीज पे भी जाएंगे तो आप बैलेंस शीट्स निकाल सकते हो, बैलेंस शीट पढ़ सकते हो और उससे आपको थोड़ा आइडिया आ ही जाएगा. बट वो उतना डिगिंग करना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज अगर आप उतना डिगिंग नहीं करोगे तो फिर वो बहुत ब्रॉड होगा. और जितना आप कंपनी की बैलेंस शीट पढ़ के प्रमोटर के सामने जा सकते हो उतना बेटर रहता है. तो मैंने एक छोटी सी टीम बैठाई है मेरे लिए, क्योंकि जो मेरे प्रायोरिटी क्लाइंट्स है उसके लिए मैंने एक एनालिस्ट बैठाया है जो क्वार्टरली ट्रांसक्रिप्ट्स मेरे क्लाइंट्स के पढ़ के रखता है. तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल
कितना बिजनेस हो रहा है,
बिजनेस क्या हो रहा है, उनकी प्रायोरिटीज़ क्या है. बिकॉज बहुत सारे मेरे क्लाइंट्स पब्लिकली लिस्टेड कंपनीज है. तो क्या होता है कि अगर मैंने उनकी ट्रांसक्रिप्ट्स पढ़ी हो और मुझे पता है कि अच्छा ठीक है, अभी इस कंपनी को उन्होंने उनके क्वार्टरली अर्निंग्स कॉल में बोला है कि इंटरनेशनल बिजनेस इज़ अ न्यू प्रायोरिटी फॉर देम. तो मेरे लोग जब भी उस क्लाइंट को जाके पूछते हैं कि अरे मैंने सुना है कि एक्चुअली इंटरनेशनल बिजनेस आपके लिए बहुत बड़ी प्रायोरिटी है, हमने इस इंटरनेशनल बिजनेस में ये 10 काम करके रखे हैं, तो FII आपको बता के रख रहे हैं. सो देन दे विल से ओके ठीक है, इंटरनेशनल बिजनेस का काम है, आई वांट टू गिव यू ओनली. बट द मोमेंट यू आर एबल टू प्रीएम्प्ट what the business needs, then that's good. Now if it's a privately listed business, you may want to study 10 balance sheets, and today with AI you have the ability to study 10 balance sheets this fast. So you put 4 balance sheets in, you ask to analyze against each of the balance sheet to get a good sense of the business. The more you know about the business, the more valuable you become to your potential client. तो turnover क्या है, उनका percentage of marketing spend क्या है, और उनकी बिजनेस चैलेंजेस क्या है. आप ज़्यादा उसके बारे में बात करोगे, टर्नओवर के हिसाब से आपको पता चलेगा कि उसके पास बजट होगा कि नहीं. और फिर वो बजट के हिसाब से उनकी ग्रोथ चैलेंजेस क्या है, और फिर आप करोगे कॉस्ट प्लस प्राइसिंग, विच इज़ कि अच्छा ये मार्केटिंग चैलेंज करने के लिए मुझे 3 डिज़ाइनर लगाने पड़ेंगे, मुझे एक क्रिएटिव माइंड लगाना पड़ेगा, मुझे एक स्ट्रैटेजी माइंड लगाना पड़ेगा, और मुझे ये गोल ऐसे बिठाने पड़ेंगे. तो अगर उनका कुल मिला के पर मंथ सपोज किसी का कॉस्टिंग आता है, डिज़ाइनर का कॉस्टिंग आता है 50,000 या 60,000 या 2 लाख, जो भी स्किल लेवल के हिसाब से, तो वो स्किल लेवल के हिसाब से आप करोगे और उसके ऊपर आपके रनिंग कॉस्ट ऐड करोगे, विच इज़ आपके ऑफिस का कॉस्ट या आपके व्हाटएवर इंटरनेट खर्चा पानी का कॉस्ट, वो ओवरहेड कंपोनेंट कहते हैं. सो कॉस्ट ऑफ रनिंग द मैन पावर, कॉस्ट ऑफ द ओवरहेड, and then the margin. That is what you'll add as 3 components.
फिर आप अपना सर्विसेज प्राइस कर सकते हैं उसके बेसिस,
उसके हिसाब से.
ओके. एंड जो मैंने आपको पहले पूछा, तो ये क्लाइंट्स को ढूंढते कैसे हैं, पिच कैसे करते हैं, हाउ डू यू गेट एन एंट्री?
See, that's now the market is so diversified that it's difficult for me to cut this question in a straightforward way, because market now has, like, let me give you a context. Google is quoting that India is having 300,000 new advertisers every year on Google AdWords. If Google is having 300,000 new advertisers on Google AdWords, that means you have 300,000 new clients coming into the market. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that all of them are spending lakhs and crores of rupees. So first you be clear which segment of the market you want to play in. The most crowded segment of the market is a segment I play in right now, which is a segment for the large brands that has a maximum talent, that also has a maximum spends by brands. So that is why that is the largest segment. I would say the segment which is the segment of the India growing brands.
Would you say startups?
People who are startups or people who are large enterprises formalizing their businesses now.
And making it digital.
Making it digital. Or even making it serious about marketing. So let me give you an example. मैं जाते रहता हूँ. I love to travel to tier 2 cities to understand where is business going in this country. So outside of Ahmedabad, I met this company which is an oil company. They have been making sunflower oil for many, many years. And now they are making cold pressed extra virgin coconut oil.
Okay.
So now that's a premiumization that they are doing. तो जो उनका बेस कोर कैटेगरी था 2000 करोड़ का बिजनेस है, तो उस पर तो वो मार्केटिंग करने ही वाला है. बट अभी तक वो 2000 करोड़ लेके गया प्योरली विदाउट टू मच मार्केटिंग. सो नाउ टू अंडरस्टैंड कि अच्छा आप ये 2000 को 3000 की जर्नी पे ब्रांड का रोल क्या होगा, अगर आप उसको इंटेलिजेंटली बात कर सकते हो और उसके न्यू लाइंस के बारे में इंटेलिजेंटली बात कर सकते हो और बोलोगे कि मैं ये टीम सेट करके दूंगा आपको जो आपके साथ काम करेगी और ये ग्रोथ जर्नी में आपका सहारा देगी, तो देन ही विल बी विलिंग टू डू दैट. सो आई एम सेइंग लाइक दैट देयर आर मेनी कंपनीज who have not built a brand but have grown a very large business. It may not be a 2000 crore business, it may be a 100 crore business, 200 crore, but these are still sizable businesses. So how to walk and handhold with these entrepreneurs on the building of the brand journey is the other fun part.
ये जब आपको कोई फॉर एग्जांपल 2000 करोड़ बना रही है कंपनी और आपको लेके जाना है ऐसे 3000 करोड़ पे, ये आप मार्केटिंग से उनको गारंटी देते हैं या आप बोलते हैं कि नहीं आप ये टीम सेटअप करेंगे, ये मार्केटिंग करेंगे तो स्पेंड्स ये हो जाएगा? Is that possible?
Guarantee, I see, if you can guarantee that you would be running that business. The idea is not to provide a guarantee, because as the service provider, what you're putting is your brains to say, here is my reading of the situation. If we follow this path, we are likely to grow. Most of the time, somebody who has made a 2000 crore company, he is a very smart person, extremely smart person. तो वो देखना चाहता है कि आपका दिमाग भी उतना तेज चल रहा है कि नहीं. तो जब भी आप प्रपोजल डालोगे तो वो देखेगा कि ठीक है, इस बंदे का दिमाग या इस बंदी का दिमाग इतना तेज चल रहा है और मेरे अलाइनमेंट से चल रहा है कि नहीं. सो दैट इज व्हाट आई थिंक मोस्ट ऑफ द क्लाइंट्स आर लुकिंग फॉर.
Okay.
And there are so many different cuts, to be honest. So there's a whole D2C wave, so you can be a D2C specialist. Today, I think one of the areas which is highly ignored is retention marketing. So you can be a retention marketing specialist. You can be SEO specialist. You could be production agency. You could be a brand development agency. So there are many cuts of marketing now, and that is the joy of marketing as well as the complexity of marketing now. And we are entering an age of surgical expertise. So that is where I think the world is going.
I give the same advice. So to people who are starting out now, I would say अगर आप पहले ये करते तो आप सारी सर्विसेज दे सकते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल समथिंग दैट यू बिल्ट वेयर यू आर डूइंग प्रोडक्शन ऑल्सो, आप एड्स भी कर रहे हो, आप SEO भी कर रहे हो, आप सोशल मीडिया भी कर रहे हैं. लेकिन अभी अगर कोई एंटर करता है, सो आई थिंक इट्स इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर देम टू पिक वन थिंग दैट दे गोइंग टू बी वेरी गुड एट, फिर वो एक्सपैंड कर सकते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल उन्होंने प्रोडक्शन चूज़ किया और मैं जो कंपनीज को आई स्टडी एंड आई रीड अबाउट देम डाइसेक्ट के लिए, सो आई रियलाइज दैट द वंस दैट हैव डन रियली वेल आर द वंस जिन्होंने एक नीश लिया, वेदर इट्स प्रोडक्शन, वेदर इट इज़ SEO, whether it is whatever, AI maybe, और उन्होंने उस जर्नी को हाईलाइट करके ग्रो किया and then they are known in that field. Which option I don't think 10 years ago that was, because that time brands wanted आप सब चीज़ एक ही एजेंसी करे तो बेटर रहेगा.
करेक्ट. इसीलिए मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि अगर आपको सब कुछ करना है तो probably the brands being built out of India too are the brands you want to talk to.
Okay.
If you want to do everything. So let me be even more specific. If you want, because see, where company wants somebody to do everything is when they themselves don't need a specialization.
Okay.
Because if I need generalized skills, which is general brand building skill, and I need a smart agency partner who will be able to handle everything, those brands are today sitting in tier 2 India.
Okay.
They are being built today. So they are yesterday's Britannia. Today's Britannia wants a more structured service, wants to work with the most highly skilled players. But on the journey, like, if you look at Dr. Vector, so
Okay.
it's, I guess, based out of Punjab. They are a local player and they want to become a national player. So there they may need a local agency out there who's able to work with them, but able to see the long picture with them. Or like this oil company that I spoke about. So there are so many of these companies which have locally very strong presence. Nabati is another one, South Tamil Nadu based.
Yeah.
They make biscuits. So when we are talking in the context of biscuits, so I'm taking these examples. But all of these players will want agency partner that will see them through till a certain size.
Okay.
So they will want an agency partner which has the ability to be a generalist across.
Yeah, and that can adjust and fluctuate according to them. Because I worked with a client called Galaxy Rice, which is huge in like the selling in numbers, Punjab mein, Rajasthan mein, and Delhi mein, and all of that. And they're huge. They sell a lot of rice. Karnal company it is. तो उन लोगों को एकदम high level agency नहीं चाहिए था. Somebody who understands the core of India and understands how to market to them. They wanted somebody like that.
Correct.
And there's Ripple Tea in the South that I worked with. They also are like that.
Correct.
Like we want to understand our market. Bombay agencies may not be able to kind of understand. But
one
then
is the market understanding. Second is they want flexibility. कि जो वो time पे चाहिए ना आप लेके आओ. And they will say, you're my trustworthy person. I will build that. Now, that allows you to be a generalist and that allows you to build multi-skilled of what is yesterday, today. The example that you gave, like my time when I started, I could be a generalist. But today, if I enter a Bombay market, then I have to be a specialist. So what I am doing in my setup is that I am building multiple areas of specialization. And I'm clear which areas of specialization I don't have.
Okay. What areas of specialization you don't work in?
I would say right now, the one area within performance marketing, for example, like app downloads, the area I don't work in.
Okay.
Because that's a very sharp niche that requires a particular kind of expertise. In production, there is a certain skill you need for self-production of a 2 crore shoot. Beyond that, so that area I don't work in.
Okay.
So there are areas which I know, but then I am upfront with my client about that these are the areas I don't work in. The areas which I have consistently strengthened, and there are only some certain signs that you can have, which is that are you being well awarded in all the industry awards for that particular domain?
Okay.
Are you winning consistent business? Is your referral score good? Is your net promoter score good on those services? So that's how I track the health of the service.
Okay.
Like what I'm building right now, for example, which I'm still not very well known for, as an example, is a brand development service.
Okay.
So I've built some good brands from scratch, but it's not something I'm known for, like what a Lando would be known for.
Right.
But now we've got an acquisition of Addict, which is now Addict Schbang, which is based out of Holland. So that they are the masters in branding. So now we are integrating them into our offering to be able to say, I can give you that really well. SEO as a service, we used to not be great at, but actually last 2 years, we have won, I think, give or take, we of course had wins at the Abbeys for SEO cases, but we also have, give or take, about 20 different awards on SEO that have come in, large mandates that have come in, growth which has come in over 50% year on year for 4 years. So you know that you're building a very specialized service. Similarly with marketing automation and full funnel marketing. I'm trying to work hard to build all of these various services, whether it's marketing automation, SEO, whether it's performance marketing, whether it's digital media buying. Like one area which I don't touch is TV media buying.
Right.
Yet I don't have the the ability and capability to do that. So while I will do digital media buys, I don't touch the TV media buys as much. I have a few clients who I do it for, but it's not a mainstay for me. Similarly, performance marketing is a skill set that we've really harnessed over the last few years. And then you add on to that the digital creative offering, the mainline creative offering, the social media offering, production offering. And then you are able to basically put together as much of a holistic offering as possible.
Right. What you mean by DVCs and TVCs, so like placements आप जो करते हैं वो online वाले ads placement करते हैं,
हाँ.
and जो TV पे जाते हैं, that's something that you don't do.
हाँ जी.
Correct. So
Yes.
I'm just simplifying it for my
Yes.
audiences,
Yes.
so they understand. मुझे एक सवाल इससे आ रहा है कि इंडस्ट्री में बहुत चेंजेस देखे हैं over the years, all of us. और सबसे बड़ा एजेंसी फाउंडर्स को प्रॉब्लम है कॉस्टिंग में. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, क्योंकि मार्केट में बहुत कम प्लेयर्स थे बैक देन, तो प्राइसेस वर सेट बाय दोज एजेंसीज कि हम इतना चार्ज करें, ये सर्विस इतने का है. आपने जो कॉस्टिंग बताई, टीम है, एक्सपेंसेस है, एक्सेट्रा. बट अभी टाइम ऐसा आ गया है कि बिकॉज सो मेनी एजेंसीज हैव एंटर्ड द मार्केट, तो उससे कॉस्ट कटिंग हो ही जा रहा है. एग्जाम्पल फॉर आवर व्यूअर्स इज, अगर कोई 1 लाख रुपीज़ पे सर्विस करता था, कभी नई एजेंसी आई है, वो बोल रही है आई विल डू इट एट 70,000. फिर एक और आती है, बोले आई डू इट एट 50. प्लस AI की वजह से a lot of that has also become faster.
Yeah.
How is it that somebody can navigate this space and really ask for what they think is the right price? And as a brand also, कॉस्ट सेव करना चाहिए क्योंकि सर्विस सेम मिल रहा है, या फिर नहीं, हाई क्वालिटी हाई प्राइस में ही मिलेगा?
I would give you maybe a bad analogy, but I'll give it to you nevertheless. अगर आप देखोगे तो इन अ वे एजेंसी बिजनेस रेस्टोरेंट बिजनेस की तरह है. इन अ वे आप एक रात के लिए पर पर्सन 3,000 रुपये भी खर्च कर सकते हो और 300 रुपये भी खर्च कर सकते हो. और आपको एक्सपीरियंस क्या चाहिए और आपको स्किल क्या चाहिए. सी अल्टीमेटली नाउ दिस इज वेयर द एनालॉजी स्टॉप्स, बट एट वन लेवल the food business is also one which is facing a lot of competition.
Yes.
At the same time, there are various price points one can operate at. From a brand's perspective, the strength of the brand is the biggest quality that you can invest in. So it can certainly become a business differentiator for you. And we have seen tons of brands like that. I mean, some of the customers that we work with are resilient brands simply because उन्होंने ब्रांड में बहुत इन्वेस्ट किया है और कस्टमर आईज क्लोज्ड वो ब्रांड पिक कर लेगा. अल्टीमेटली ब्रांड में इन्वेस्टमेंट करना क्या होता है कि एट द पॉइंट ऑफ ट्रूथ कस्टमर आपके प्रोडक्ट को पिक करेगा वर्सेस कंपटीशन.
ओके,
अल्टीमेटली दैट्स व्हाट इट कम्स डाउन टू. तो इसीलिए ब्रांडिंग में इन्वेस्ट करना ज़रूरी है. और अगर आप ब्रांड बनाना चाहते हो तो कौन से हाथ है जो आपके ब्रांड को बना रहे, वो प्राइस डिटर्मिन करेंगे.
ओके.
और इसीलिए इट्स अ फंक्शन ऑफ द स्किल दैट गोज इनटू द आर्ट, दैट गोज इनटू द राइटिंग, दैट गोज इनटू द थिंकिंग, दैट विल डिफरेंशिएट वेदर योर ब्रांड गोज so many miles ahead or whether it stays where it has to. So actually by paying maybe 15 to 20%, even 40% extra than the next best guy, you could be getting actually skilled people who are moving things significantly forward. So I think for a brand owner, they have to be very careful. Actually, in a market like this, it is difficult for them because they have the temptation to reduce on cost, but the quality that goes in may get affected. It's the analogy of the restaurant, is the quality of the dining experience. And, here's the quality of the brand experience, how well the brand gets created. Certain brands, you just look at them and you're like, magic. And consistency in every aspect. So that is what everybody adheres to or aspires for. And as an agency, अगर आपको वही गेम खेलनी है from as a restaurant point of view, you have to only keep sharpening your skills. I think honestly in the last few years there are many agencies that have come in, but मैंने बहुत कम agencies का काम देखा है जो proactive work बनाती है, जो public service work बनाती है, जो काम अपने कल्चर के बारे में बहुत अच्छी तरह से बात करती है. तो मैंने बहुत कम एजेंसीज वैसी देखी है जो मैंने देखा है कि दीज आर स्टैंडिंग आउट. आई एम नॉट सेइंग इट्स वेरी इजी, बट व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से इज आई सी लेस एफर्ट ऑन प्रोएक्टिव वर्क to showcase to the market कि मेरे पास ये skills है.
And then you can ask for what you deserve.
Yeah, Yeah.
It's the same thing. I think you're very correct in this because मैंने भी यही नोटिस किया और कोई ब्रांड आके मुझे भी पूछते हैं अगर इंक्वायरी बहुत करते हैं मेरे साथ क्या करना चाहिए, कौन सी एजेंसी चूज करना चाहिए एक्सेट्रा, एंड आई बी लाइक आप थोड़ा सा कॉस्ट सेव करेंगे लेकिन आपका काम का जो क्वालिटी रहेगा वो अफेक्ट करेगा. तो आपको ये भी देखना पड़ेगा अगर आपकी एजेंसी कम कॉस्ट में कर रही है, डू दे हैव द बैंडविड्थ आपको हैंडल करने के लिए. क्या 6 महीने बाद उनका रिटेंशन इतना अच्छा है कि वो आपको वही काम करके देंगे. तो इफ यू गो फॉर अ बेटर एजेंसी एट अ हायर प्राइस, वो आपके ब्रांड के लिए बेटर रहता है. एंड सेम थिंग फॉर एजेंसीज. आप लोअर कॉस्ट में आप कर देंगे बट वो फिर मुझे सस्टेनेबल नहीं लगता है बिकॉज आप कॉस्ट कैसे करेंगे. एंड बहुत सारी एजेंसीज फिर इस वजह से डाई आउट हो जाती हैं क्योंकि वो 4 साल 5 साल बाद, because we've seen it for so long, right? So after 5 years they will be like, but like now it's like burnt out. I'm not making any money because they tried to save costs. So might as well do the good work at the high price if you want to do this in the long run. But बहुत सारे आते हैं थोड़े टाइम के लिए करके निकल भी जाते हैं, which disturbs the market, I feel like.
Correct.
You know?
Correct.
So I've made the same observation, I think. In terms of like clients, is there?
But ये sorry जो हम लोग ने बात की ना, वो I'm understanding कि I'm saying it in a very easy way, etc. और इसमें बहुत काम लगता है.
Of course.
But it's not as, I think that's why I say the fundamental is focus on the work. The thing I really love is when I was starting Schbang, I flew to Singapore to meet this gentleman, Chris Thomas, who was then looking after the BBDO business for, BBDO is a legendary ad agency which does award-winning work. And what he showed me is, so he's looking after the Southeast Asia region, India region, Middle East region, North Africa region. So he has that much territory to look after. And everything that they were obsessed about is the quality of the work. On the diary, it was written, the work, the work, the work. So it's all about that. So if the work is on top priority and top focus, then things can really sort itself out. And then, of course, there are a lot of reflections that I've had on making sure that the work lives with the systems that build the work. So that's a whole different discussion altogether, which I worked on for close to, I would say, 2.5 years to build a scalable system to say, how do you then take 1,200 people to 5,000? What systems would be required for that is also important. So if you want to scale, you need system. But at the heart of it, you need to love the work.
That's true. And to take it to that scale, I feel like there is no roadmap or something that you can take from another business and do. It's like you have to build it. And then maybe looking at you, once you've built it, everybody else can follow. But with leaders like you, I feel like you guys have to set the precedent of how these things are run in larger capacities in an India workforce, because in abroad you have those systems and you have these big advertising agencies, but India mein wo systems, processes, logo ke kaam karne ka tarika, people, building is something that is non-existing. So you would personally have to build a system to take it from X to Y. So like it's like that range has to be set by all. And मैंने नोटिस किया कि बहुत सारी एजेंसीज ना ये इसमें लैक करते हैं, क्रिएटिविटी को ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंस देते हैं, बट जो प्रोसेसेस हैं उसमें दे गेट अ लिटिल लॉस्ट बिकॉज वी थिंक अच्छा ये काम करना है, ये क्लाइंट को सर्विस करना है एंड ऑल, बट ये भी इंपॉर्टेंट है कि आपके एम्प्लॉयज़ फॉर एग्जांपल सिस्टम फॉलो कर रहे हैं, कोई प्रोसेस फॉलो कर रहे हैं. वो एजेंसी का बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है, समथिंग दैट दे जस्ट ओवरलुक. And then it's difficult to scale.
Correct.
In that, so I think that you've done that really well, wherein you're like analytical also while being creative. Yeah. And how do you balance both the things?
I've not been able to balance it. So there have been phases of my life where I've just been extremely analytical, and there have been phases where I've just focused on the work. I'm now trying to bring that balance. Hopefully it will show in the results in the next few years.
I think you also have the hands to be able to help you do that, right? Because one person cannot. I think you're more analytical from what I understand, but I feel like
actually I'm fundamentally a creative person.
I know that. Yes,
fundamentally
that's true.
A creative person.
But to scale a business, I feel like sometimes you need more of a analytical mind to take it like up there, because creativity obviously is a part, but that system processes is more important.
Yeah, it's an interesting observation, anecdote. So like I'll zoom back to 2018. Okay, we are in 2025 now, 7 years back. Typically you do these personality assessments. तो मैंने एक मेरा पर्सनालिटी असेसमेंट किया था, शेप बेस्ड पर्सनालिटी असेसमेंट. तो एक होता है आप इंट्यूटिवली फिगर आउट करते हो कि आप कौन से शेप हो, और सेकंड आप एक टेस्ट देते हो और वो टेस्ट आपको बताता है कि आप कौन से शेप हो. तो इसमें 4 प्राइमरी शेप्स होते हैं. एक है ट्राइंगल, एक है स्क्विगल, एक है स्क्वायर, और एक है सर्कल. तो ट्राइंगल जो होता है वो विजन ओरिएंटेड होता है, बॉटम लाइन ओरिएंटेड होता है, बहुत क्लियर होता है. एक स्क्विगल होता है जिसमें क्रिएटिविटी की पागलपन होती है. एक स्क्वायर होता है जो बहुत एनालिटिकल होता है, और एक सर्कल होता है जो relies a lot on emotional relationships to succeed. तो मेरे लिए क्या हुआ था 2018 में, मेरे 2 dominant shapes थे. So I was very clearly a triangle squiggle. Triangle squiggle in 2018. Lots of madness. अगर मैं मेरे वीडियोस को भी रिफ्लेक्ट करके देखूंगा, या मेरा काम रिफ्लेक्ट करके देखूंगा, या थोड़ी रेकलेस चीज़ें जो मैंने की हो, वो सब उससे उभरती थी. बट switch back to 2025, if I was looking at the shape intuitively, I am more triangle square. जो analytical observation जो आपने कहा, तो more vision oriented, bottom line oriented, how to get to that job fast, but with a analytical approach as opposed to a more hyper creative approach. और अभी मैं ला रहा हूँ कि मेरे square में मैं squiggle कैसे बैठा सकूँ, वो मैं सोच रहा हूँ अभी.
I think it's good to know from this that people's personalities can change.
100%.
क्योंकि हम ये नहीं सोचते, हम सोचते हैं ये क्रिएटिव है तो क्रिएटिव रहेगा, एनालिटिकल है तो एनालिटिकल रहेगा. बट ओवर द कोर्स ऑफ इयर्स एंड विद द एक्सपीरियंसेस दैट यू हैव, आप वो ही इंसान नहीं बनेंगे. यू कैन चेंज योर शेप लाइक इनटू डिफरेंट फॉर्म्स. इफ यू हैड टू टेल मी अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस एनालॉजी, वेयर डू आई फिट इन?
Definitely squiggle, one part for sure. And second part, torn between the circle and the triangle, because you're also emotionally very aware person to be able to interview a lot of people, to speak to them, to get to the bottom of them. You need to have the emotional intelligence, but at the same time you're also very clear about where you're going. So the second one but you can tell me if you choose a circle or a triangle.
Yeah, maybe by the end of the podcast. Okay, so we get back to
more triangle, I think.
Triangle is the one that is more clear on their goals and what they want, and very could be possibly. I
mean, we all have some variation
some traits
of all, but what's the dominant one? What's the dominant one is what actually drives you. So probably I would say triangle along with squiggle.
Squiggle for sure. That's
so squiggle dominant and triangle second is what I would guess.
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to come back to the agency stuff. What is the kind of client that an agency should not go with and not pick?
First and foremost, where marketing is not a priority for that company.
Okay.
Because अगर marketing priority होगी नहीं, तो इट कम्स बैक टू दैट जो हमने पहले बात की कि कंपनी का टर्नओवर क्या है, मार्केटिंग की प्रायोरिटी क्या है, मार्केटिंग का बजट क्या है, और कंपटीशन कितना खर्च कर रहा है. नाउ इट कुड बी वेरी पॉसिबल दैट द प्रमोटर सेज कि कंपटीशन खर्च नहीं कर रहा है, लेकिन मुझे खर्च करना है और मुझे मार्केट को डिसरप्ट करना है, तो बात अलग है. बट अगर प्रमोटर कहेगा कि मुझे बस काम चलाना है, तो आपका काम निखर के आएगा नहीं. बेसिकली जहाँ पे कंपनी के लिए मार्केटिंग स्ट्रेटेजिक प्रायोरिटी ना हो, वो क्लाइंट को आपको शायद लेना नहीं चाहिए. ए सेकेंड इज कि अगर आप जैसे आपने कहा लॉस पे चला रहे हो या वेफर थिन मार्जिन पे चला रहे हो, वेफर थिन मार्जिन यानी कि 5%, 4%, 6%,
जहाँ आप पैसे नहीं बना पा रहे हो,
बिकॉज एक तो आप जब भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट साइन करोगे आप बोलोगे कि मुझे पैसे आएंगे बिल देने के 30 दिन के बाद मिनिमम, 45 डेज के बाद, 60 डेज के बाद. ऑन एन एवरेज इन दिस इंडस्ट्री 75 डेज इज द डेली सेल्स आउटस्टैंडिंग, इज अ रियलिटी. तो अगर आपको देखना है कि आपके इनवॉइस के बाद 75 डेज के बाद आपके पैसे आने वाले, तो उसका मतलब आपने ऑलरेडी 30 दिन के पैसे ऑलरेडी खर्च कर दिए, बिकॉज आपने सैलरी तो दे दी, आपने ओवरहेड के कॉस्ट तो दे दिए, फिर आपने बिल फाड़ा एट द एंड ऑफ द मंथ. तो एक्चुअली टेक्निकली 105 डेज का आउटस्टैंडिंग है आपके पास, बट अपने सेल्स पर्ची फाड़ने के बाद 75 डेज का आउटस्टैंडिंग है. तो आपको फैक्टर करना है, बिकॉज अगर और फिर अगर आप 5-6% पे मैनेज करोगे या कॉस्ट करोगे तो आपका यू आर अ सिटिंग डक. मतलब आपका बिजनेस सस्टेन ही नहीं होने वाला. अगर वैसे वेफर थिन मार्जिन पे काम कर रहे हो तो आप नहीं कर सकते.
राइट. एंड दिस इज अगेन समथिंग जो बहुत सारे लोग मिस आउट कर देते हैं. एजेंसी रन करना है, लेकिन लोग ये समझते नहीं है कि आपको पैसे बाद में मिलेंगे. तब तक आपके पास इतने होने चाहिए कि आप अपने सारे कॉस्ट निकाल लें और फिर आपको प्रॉफिट हो. कितने लोग सोचते हैं कि अच्छा इतना बड़ा, फॉर एग्जाम्पल एक क्लाइंट लिया और वो बहुत बड़ा, सबसे बड़ा है, ओके, बट आपके पास अगर सैलरी नहीं होगा भरने को, जब तक वो क्लाइंट पैसे नहीं देगा तो फिर आपकी एजेंसी में बिजनेस डिस्टर्ब हो जाएगा. फिर सस्टेन करना डिफिकल्ट हो जाएगा, फिर और क्लाइंट्स लेना भी डिफिकल्ट हो जाएगा.
और अगर क्लाइंट अगर सीरियस है मार्केटिंग के बारे में तो वो आपको पिंच नहीं करेगा कॉस्ट पे. वो बाय एंड लार्ज मैंने देखा है कि जो क्लाइंट मार्केटिंग के सब्जेक्ट पे काफ़ी सीरियस होते हैं ना, वो स्किल्ड आदमी को कभी पिंच नहीं करेगा. अगर आपको ऐसा कोई क्लाइंट लेना हो कि जो ये बहुत अच्छा क्लाइंट है, मैं कॉस्ट की वजह से ले लेता हूँ. फर्स्टली अच्छे क्लाइंट कॉस्ट की वजह से आपके पास आते नहीं, वो स्किल की वजह से आते हैं, नंबर 1. नंबर 2, फिर भी अगर आपको लगा कि कॉस्ट की वजह से आपने बहुत अच्छा क्लाइंट ले लिया और आप उससे पोर्टफोलियो बनाओगे, तो आपको तो आपको क्लैरिटी होनी चाहिए कि मैं ये क्लाइंट से मेरे बिजनेस को फंड नहीं कर सकूंगा, नंबर 1. तो वो ठीक है, अगर आपने वो स्ट्रेटेजिक कॉल लिया तो आपका कॉल है. और सेकंड इज आपको क्लाइंट के साथ कमिटमेंट लेना चाहिए कि वर्क रिलीज कितना होगा आपका, अवार्ड्स में खर्चा कितना करेंगे साथ में आपके साथ, ताकि एटलीस्ट जो काम आप बना रहे हो उससे आपका नाम बन रहा है.
आप मुझे ये बताइए कि आप इतने सारे ब्रांड्स के साथ काम करते हैं, कौन सी एक मार्केटिंग मिस्टेक है जो ब्रांड्स हमेशा करते हैं? I feel like too many are coming in your mind.
No, I think brands are not making so many marketing mistakes now. I think the startups make marketing mistakes.
Like
let's say cred. Okay, to spend that crazy kind of money on advertising when you are punting to build a brand which people will stick on to, and you are over relying on brand to drive your product forward. I think fundamentally there's something wrong with that. I mean, actually, if you look at it, I'm a big believer in that all the elements of the business need to fire together somehow. So there needs to be synchronicity around elements of the business. Distribution goes very strong. You reach a particular stage on distribution, only then you do need marketing.
Right.
Because I mean, there's a concept of physical availability and mental availability, right? That if you're available everywhere. Now, in Cred's case, they could argue that actually, technically, we are available everywhere because we are on an app store. So we need to really increase the net wide to be able to get people on there. But then maybe you can actually create that impact in a smaller way, test how that's happening, and then slowly scale it up. I think the ability to and then also see if the unit economics are working or no. So I mean, there's a whole different discussion on the business itself. I'm a slightly more conservative player in terms of, I believe in the slightly more what one may call the quote unquote conservative style of building a business. So I'm not for the entire burn and grow model, and I don't think it's worked for India.
And what about all these जो startups fund होते हैं, because they have so much budgets, do you think they are recklessly spending a lot more on marketing that they should?
Yes.
I've also seen बहुत सारे brands performance, for example, पे rely करते हैं
but
अपना
also it's a
brand
catch-22, you know. So if you break this down, sorry to interrupt you there on this performance part, because it's linked to this. See, performance alone cannot build a brand.
Right.
You have to be able to build a brand through building brand image, brand credibility. And I think somewhere what some of these companies are not factoring in is the aspect of time. So you throw money at the problem to compress time, which is what effectively they're doing. A good brand would take X many years to build. Some would argue 10 years to build. So you're throwing money at the problem to compress that 10 years to become 4 years, 3 years. Effectively, if you just...
It's sustainable?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. And that is where some of the brands are burning out, in the sense that they become shooting stars and then tomorrow you don't know where they are. or they don't have longer customer lifetime basis. Now I'm generalizing, so I don't want to be unnecessarily called out for saying ki you are making a general statement. So yes, there are certain successes that have showcased credible value, but by and large, time is a factor that I think in the last few years India has forgotten. We're a patient country. Now we have become that we are getting left behind on whatever parameters. But that's a more broader question about us as a society, how we view business, what kind of a mad rush we are in, all of those things. I think fundamentally we have a very large market.
Yeah.
And there is enough space for all different kinds of brands to grow if we are focusing on differentiated service. And I think a lot of the businesses that are being built in India today should be built on basic unit economics working and not trying to throw money at the problem.
I agree with you, because whether it's people or whether it's brands, I've been seeing the same thing. Again, like you said, it's a bigger problem because of the environment we are in, wherein everything has to be done so quickly. Everything has to be bought so quickly. There's quick commerce now that is disrupting everything with how fast that everything is available. But I really think that it takes time to build those legacy brands, if you want, or those brands and people, for example. It takes years for you to get there, and just fastening the process will hamper a lot of the progress. So if somebody tells me like 2 years, 3 years, I don't look at a 2-year, 3-year. I look at what is it in for me for the next 10 years, and that I know is going to take time. You cannot fasten the process and be like, now today I want, say, these many followers, or I want this much money, or I want to build, because it won't. The process is supposed to take time. I've seen that happen with brands also, when they're just pushing a lot of money, but then again, it's like the investors are there, and then it just goes according to all of those.
I guess the investors
things
are smarter than us. They're doing their jobs. So I'll rely on their good judgment, but I'm just commenting on what I see.
Yeah. No, I think there's some particular that can scale and become so fast, but it won't apply to everybody by large.
Yeah.
So everybody's trying it out, I guess.
And also, but I guess, this is another topic. We're going into other direction altogether. But
back to agency.
Yeah.
No, I understand that could be a biggest mistake, that, and I wouldn't have seen it that way. That they're spending a lot more. Okay, tell me that when you hire somebody at Schbang, what is something that you look at in everybody, like that one trait that has to be there?
So the big thing that we are looking for a lot more now is, and I think this is not a new answer, but it's basically learnability, adaptability, and the hunger for growth. If you have learnability, adaptability, hunger for growth, we want you in the team.
Okay.
And particularly at the entry levels. So at the entry levels, you want that. You want people who come with a passionate can-do attitude and who've demonstrated the ability to go beyond what they are asked to do in their education period. So whether that's projects, whether that's responsibilities of clubs that they may have undertaken, things like that. तो वो सब चीज़ें हम देखते हैं. और at higher levels we are only looking for skill.
Okay.
So think of it as a football analogy, that what's your skill on a particular parameter that you're being hired for. So if you're in performance marketing, what's your skill there? If you're in marketing automation, what's your skill to set up flows, so on and so forth. If you're a generalist on production, then how strong is your network? What's your skill on turning around a particular shoot that may be requiring a crunch timeline? If you're a AI person, then what's your skill specifically with APIs? So that's more at the mid and higher levels. It's skill along with the attitude, but at the entry levels, it's more attitude.
Who is the kind of person that definitely should not join the agency world?
I think agency world is for a lot of different kinds of people, because you get a lot of varied exposure. Particularly, and within the agency also. Actually, I think if I look back and I see people entering my office, I think a lot of them get access to the pulse of how business works. They get access to pulse of how teams can tick together. They get access to how consumers can be spoken to. They get access to how craft and aesthetics come together. So I think it's a very good breeding ground for any kind of person who may want an entrepreneurial career or a large career in management or in branding or in marketing. So, I think it's good for all of those kind of people. Basically, yeah, but what you shouldn't come to is if you're a deeply technical person, which there are very few of in India. So, like, for example, the one person who thinks when you think of deep tech in India is Angad Daryani. Like somebody of his stature, extremely scientific, extreme depth on wanting to solve a scientific problem, an agency is not going to do that. But if you want communication to solve a problem, if you want branding to solve a problem, if your approach to solving a problem is through communication, brand, if you want to know how to manage things well, the discipline and rigor of meeting targets, that's very good in an agency setup.
Okay. I wanted to ask you that if you are building a brand today, तो आप उसकी marketing कैसे करते?
हाँ, मैं 2 प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड ब्रांड बिल्ड कर रहा हूँ. एक है वेयर आई एम द co-founder of Archives, which is a tote based totes that we build.
Okay.
And I'm very happy with how we built out that brand. The co-founders of that are Gaurav Bhatia and Pratima Bhatia. Gaurav used to be the ex-head of LVMH in India, and Pratima used to do a lot of operations for Nykaa Fashion. We have had that tote loved and revered by Priyanka Chopra has been spotted using it. Tara Sutaria has been spotted flaunting it. Anna Wintour has sworn by it. Sienna Miller has been seen wearing it. Who's who, international and Indian celebrities. Basically, the aesthetic is so, I mean, just fantastic. So, and the brand story is also I Dream in India. So there is I Dream in India, there is a I Dream in Pondicherry, there is a I Dream in Wanderlust. So the idea of travel as a piece that you can put into your little tote, which is the dream of what you experience in that place, and you carry it with you day in, day out, is what Archives is about. So it's a very strong brand story. It's a very quirky logo with the monkey that we have. And we have a very strong Instagram page with the kind of storytelling that we are doing. I think there was an article the Economic Times wrote about the forerunners of the bag players in India, and the Indian totes who would lead that charge. And they've said Archives would be the first to do that. So, I mean, it's been widely spoken, whether it's AD, Vogue, Harper's, everybody's spoken very, very fondly of it. So I would build it more depending on the category. But for this category, I think it's done a very, very good job. Extremely aesthetic, design first principles, design first thinking on the way the product is put together, lean operations, darling of the press, loved by celebrities, under the radar, not shouting too much. So that's one brand. And the second brand, which I've tried to follow the playbook of how I would build a brand, is on Level Supermind. So Level Supermind is, we try to focus a lot on the product, and we got the Google Play App of the Year for 2023. So that was a good testament. But again, in terms of how we are building that particular brand, is to look at, make it a content-led brand. So last week we had one of our reels hit. It was a good moment for us, about 25 million views on a reel. We built a podcast platform where we speak to different people in the space of mental health and mental wellness. We've focused a lot on being very, very consumer centric around building the product. So typically is 50 consumers spoken to every week to take inputs on how to further improve the product. We focused on reviews and ratings a lot. So on Android and Apple, we are very highly rated with the kind of volumes that we have. So I think between these two, between aesthetic and between, let's call it mathematic, so aesthetic and mathematic, these two are bringing the elements well together. So I'm satisfied with the way it's going, but then I'm going to see कि और कितनी companies ऐसे मैं बना सकता हूँ जो brand बन सके.
Right, because you would be the ideal person to start a brand, I would assume.
हाँ, but
आपको marketing आता है, आपको इतने सारे businesses का आप study कर रहे हैं, तो अगर आप brand launch करेंगे तो कैसे करेंगे would be like
hopefully,
my question,
fingers crossed,
to you. But you have done it already, so, and I follow Level Supermind's progress, so that has been a good learning to do that.
आपको मैं Archives की link भी भेजूंगा, आप please उसको follow
Yeah,
कीजिए.
I need to buy one. I don't have one. आप मुझे ये बताइए कि सबसे बड़ा marketing budget आपको कौन से brand से मिला और आपने क्या advertising या marketing किया उसके लिए?
सबसे बड़ा advertising budget, अगर मैं इसको break down करूँ ना, तो मैं 2 parts में इसको answer करता हूँ. पहला था सबसे बड़ा प्रोडक्शन बजट जो मिला था, वो एक ब्रांड के लिए H&M के लिए मिला था. So it was H&M's Diwali campaign, and it was fantastic film that had a multi-star cast. Manushi Chillar, Isha Talwar, Jim Sarb, all of them in what was a whimsical variation between what is reality and what is your dream.
Okay.
For Diwali. So Brighter Than Ever was the thematic of H&M that year, and the whole film was written around an elevator that you could enter, and at every floor that you got out, you had a different experience. Basically, your clothes, what you were wearing, and what you saw outside the elevator was reflecting what you were wearing inside. So it was a little like a true fashion film. Crazy, whimsical, fun. So extremely good on production. That's one of the productions that we did, which was our largest production. That was good.
Now tell me a certain budget without naming the brand. What is the biggest budget that you have worked on a campaign?
A biggest production budget that I worked on a campaign is about 5 crores.
Okay.
Of production. That's the biggest budget that I have worked on. I think everybody was talking about the Dream 11 budget this time, probably
Yes.
6 times of that. So I haven't had the chance of working on a Dream 11 kind of budget, but the largest one that I worked on is in the range of 5 crores. And the largest media spend that I would have done annually for a brand would be in the range of 25 to 30 crores.
This sounds like an FMCG brand.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure also, right? To handle that amount of money for somebody else.
Correct.
And running it and making sure that that other person is able to then make money through the money that they are investing through you.
Yeah.
And I've also noticed that when it comes to performance, one small mistake on an ad can make things go wrong.
Yeah.
And how? Has that ever happened?
Yeah, it's happened.
Tell me an incident without naming the brand.
Means overspend हो गया एक कैंपेन पे, और स्पेंड करने थे 1 लाख, स्पेंड हो गया 10 लाख.
फिर आप क्या करते हैं ऐसी सिचुएशन में?
You have to give the money back. So you may try few tricks. You will be like, okay, on the other spend, I'll be more efficient and then I'll recover some of that spend. But pretty much वो पैसा जो गया वो गया.
Okay.
Actually मीडिया स्पेंड पे एक मेरा कस्टमर था जो हम लोग 12 महीने के लिए हम लोग ने पर मंथ 4 करोड़ स्पेंड किए. तो
per month 4 crore?
हाँ, which was again in that startup burn phase.
Oh.
So that company shut down.
Okay.
Because it was not sustainable. If I was the promoter, then what I would have done is not spend that much, probably spend 1/10 the amount to increase the ROAS. But they were on a certain...
But you can tell your client that, right? You're the partner to the brand.
Yeah, but see, certain things, when you're spending that much, you just want an efficient execution partner or efficient execution team, because they've gone and sold a particular vision to the investors of how much scale they're going to hit.
Okay.
So it's baked into the business plan. I am nobody to have a point of view on that for that client, and now that's reduced significantly. All those teams have gone in-house now.
What do you do in a case where you don't align with the brand values or brand actions that they want to take? Do you then think that नहीं मेरी जिम्मेदारी है इन्हें ये बताना कि गलत कर रहे हैं, या ये मुझे पैसे दे रहे हैं तो मैं तो उनका काम करके दे के खत्म?
It's an interesting question, but I'm more on the latter, कि जो मेरा काम है, जिसके लिए मुझे हायर किया गया है, उसको मैं अच्छी तरह से निभा के निकल जाऊँ.
ओके, आई एम ऑफ द अदर ओपिनियन, क्योंकि अगर फॉर एग्जांपल मुझे ऐसे ब्रांड्स आते थे कि ये हमारा आइडिया है और हमें इतने पैसे खर्च करने हैं इस पे, पर मुझे पता है कि ये आइडिया नहीं चलने वाला है, एंड ऐसा हुआ है बाद में कि वो आइडिया नहीं चला है, तो फिर मैं व्हाई शुड आई अलाइन माई सेल्फ टू दैट ब्रांड और दैट मैसेज और दैट व्हाटएवर इट इज.
हाँ, मतलब आइडिया नहीं चलेगा तो ऑफ कोर्स.
Okay.
मैं कह रहा हूँ कि वो कैटेगरी, जैसे थोड़ी कंपनीज होती है, वो कहते हैं कि हम अल्कोहल की एडवर्टाइजिंग नहीं करेंगे, तो मैं ऐसा नहीं कहता हूँ. मैं कि जो भी आपको एडवर्टाइज करना है मैं आपको एडवर्टाइज करके दूंगा.
Right.
और आपको जो बेस्ट आइडिया लेना है वो बेस्ट आइडिया मैं आपको लेके प्रेजेंट कर दूंगा, और उसके लिए तो हम फाइट करते हैं टूथ एंड नेल की बेस्ट आइडिया रिलीज होए. बट ठीक है, अभी कभी कभार क्या होता है कि, एंड अगेन दैट्स अ साइन ऑफ अ रेड फ्लैग क्लाइंट, कि अगर क्लाइंट आपके आइडिया को सुनने को ही तैयार ना हो, अगर आप वेहीमेंटली वो आइडिया के लिए आर्ग्यू कर रहे हो और अगर क्लाइंट उसको सुनने के लिए तैयार नहीं है, तो फिर वो रेड फ्लैग है. मोस्टली क्या होता है कि अगर क्लाइंट का एक स्ट्रॉन्ग पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है और आपका स्ट्रॉन्ग पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू है, टिपिकली एक मिडिल ग्राउंड रीच हो जाता है. सो नॉर्मली वैसे हो जाता है.
What are the red flags in a client?
Red flags in a client are if marketing is not an important priority for them, if they don't necessarily have a budget for marketing, if marketing is not going to be a strategic goal for them to leverage their business, if they want you to work on a wafer thin margin, and if they only want you to execute the ideas that they have. These are 5 signs of red flags in a client.
Right. But you didn't mention if they are annoying. There are some clients who are like, नहीं मुझे ऐसे ही चाहिए, आप लोगो इधर ही डालिए और आप बिल्कुल इधर से उधर नहीं करिए. मुझे वो सबसे बड़ा रेड फ्लैग लगता है, बिकॉज अगर आपने किसी को हायर किया है, आपको उनको ट्रस्ट करना चाहिए कि वो आपको सबसे बेटर आइडिया देंगे, क्योंकि वो एक्सपर्ट्स हैं मार्केटिंग पे, आप नहीं. तो ऐसे जो क्लाइंट्स होते हैं ना, जो बिल्कुल सर पे बैठे रहते हैं और फिर बोलते हैं ऐसा ही करना है या वैसा ही करना है, तो फिर वो सेंस नहीं बनता है कि आपने दूसरे को हायर क्यों किया है. अगर
वो
आपको
क्लाइंट को क्रिएटिविटी नहीं, एक ऑपरेटर चाहिए.
हाँ,
तो वो तो किसी को भी काम नहीं करना है वैसे सिचुएशन में.
पर ऐसे बहुत सारे क्लाइंट्स होते हैं.
आई थिंक दे ग्रेजुएट और द बिजनेस फोर्सेस देम टू ग्रेजुएट.
ओके.
बिकॉज अगर आपका टेस्ट होता उस चीज में, तो आप प्रॉबेबली यू कैन हायर design people to be your operators to do exactly what you want.
Tell me a campaign that you are most proud about.
This year I'm very proud of 2 campaigns that we have released. One is the Britannia Croissant Prashant.
It won the awards. I was at the Goa Fest.
Yes, it did well at the Goa Fest. It did well at Curious.
Curious.
And then there's a whole host of award shows it will do at. But it really elevated the business of the client.
Really?
So
okay.
Croissant had a serious uptake in consumption after that campaign.
ये बात बहुत सारे लोगों को पता नहीं होगी कि जब वो कैंपेन लाइव हुआ था, आपने इंटीग्रेट किया विद ब्रिटानिया, और आप बोल रहे हैं कि ब्रिटानिया की सेल्स हायर हो गए थे उसकी वजह से. आप बैकएंड पे उसको देख सकते थे कि सेल्स हायर कितना हायर हुआ. और
I'm not at liberty to say exactly कितना हुआ, but serious uptake. Okay. Serious uptake in awareness, serious uptake in consumption. So very good example of a moment which led to a piece of work like this and led to real tangible sales.
Right.
तो वो मुझे बहुत पसंद था. Second जो मुझे बहुत पसंद इस सीजन में जो second काम मुझे पसंद था, वो है एक इनिशिएटिव जो हमने किया कॉल्ड पैक 1 फॉर पिंटू फॉर द रॉबिन हुड आर्मी. तो वो भी एक बहुत अच्छा केस था कि बेसिकली हम लोगों ने यूज़ किया न्यूज़पेपर वालों को, उनके साथ फोल्डेबल बॉक्सेस दे दिए ताकि आप जो आपका घर का एक्सेस खाना हो, आपके एरिया के पिंटुओं के लिए पैक कर सको. और एक बॉक्स में पैक 1 फॉर पिंटू, आपकी घर से पिंटुओं के लिए आप कॉल कर सकते हो रॉबिन हुड आर्मी को, जो आपके घर से कलेक्ट करके वापस लेके आएंगे. बहुत सारे सेलिब्रिटीज़ जुड़ गए वो कैंपेन में, और बहुत स्वीट फिल्म था, बहुत स्वीट पैकेजिंग, गुड एस्थेटिक्स. तो वो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा. और एक कैंपेन जो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा था, वो फेविकॉल के लिए था. जब भी रोनाल्डो ने कोक की बॉटल हटाई थी, तो उन्होंने कोक की बॉटल हटाई थी प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में, और कोक का शेयर प्राइस डाउन हो गया था. तो तभी हम लोगों ने फेविकॉल के लिए एक पोस्ट बनाया था, सिमिलर वो बैकड्रॉप बना के 2 फेविकॉल बॉटल को वहाँ पे चिपका के लिखा था, ना बॉटल हटेगी ना वैल्यूएशन घटेगी. और वो इतना वायरल हो गया कि आप जब भी गूगल कर रहे थे कोका कोला के लिए फेविकॉल आ रहा था. और आई थिंक कुछ 800 पब्लिकेशन ने लिखा उसके बारे में.
दैट वाज अ ग्रेट आइडिया. आप मुझे ये बताइए कि ये एक इंसान का आइडिया होता है या पूरी टीम मिलके बनाती है? ये
आई थिंक वो ये स्पेसिफिकली फेविकॉल का ऑलवेज हर एक आइडिया में ना एक एंकर आदमी होता है जो आइडिया ओन करता है.
राइट.
और तो टिपिकली क्या होता है कि एक आदमी होता है जो एंकर होता है, दूसरे होते हैं जो लेट्स कॉल देम द बॉसेस, जो वैल्यू ऐड करते रहते हैं, प्रोवोक विद द राइट क्वेश्चंस. और दूसरी होती है रेस्ट ऑफ द टीम हु इज एग्जीक्यूटिंग टू मेक इट हैपन इन रिकॉर्ड टाइम. सो इट्स रियली अ टीम वर्क, बट यू विल ऑलवेज हैव एन एंकर. या दीज आर सम ऑफ द कैंपेन्स, बट बहुत सारे कैंपेन्स हुए. और I enjoy the work I do, तो बहुत अच्छा काम निकला है और मैं खुश हूँ
No, it
उससे.
is very nice. Fevicol ads for very long have been very good on social media, and I love the fact that they replicate the TVCs that we have seen growing up. मतलब
Yeah,
वो
the
brand,
class of that.
yeah, वो brand consistent रहा है, क्योंकि जो हम टीवी पे बोलते थे अरे इतना स्मार्ट ad, तो हम सोशल मीडिया पे देखते हैं कि वो ब्रांड हैज रिमेन सस्टेनेबल, और हम सोशल मीडिया पे भी देख के बोलते हैं अरे फेविकॉल का
आपको
ad
मैं
है.
एग्जांपल दूंगा, मैंने बड़े ब्रांड्स की पिच जीती है जस्ट ऑन द बैक ऑफ वो काम दिखा के.
Of course.
तो वो मैं कह रहा था कि अगर आपके काम में कला है तो सामने वाले को दिख जाती है.
ऐसे टैलेंटेड लोगों को आप रिटेन कैसे करते हैं?
ग्रोथ, पैसा.
Okay.
They have to see commercial growth. And they have to feel respected. They have to feel extremely fairly treated in the workplace. They have to be inspired, motivated. It's a whole variety of factors. So, but fundamentally, they have to see their growth. They have to feel respected. They have to have bigger challenges, which are worthy of their while to chase. Yeah, also the environment should be creative. For creative people to spend their time there. और more and more जो ये प्रोसेस की बात मैं कर रहा हूँ ना, मैं इसको कोडिफाई कर रहा हूँ कि ये चीज़ प्रोसेस में कैसे बेक हो जाए. बिकॉज द बेस्ट वर्क प्लेसेज आर द वंस वे यू हैव मेरिट दैट विन्स. सो द पीपल हु डू द बेस्ट in terms of performance are the ones who see the most growth. Typically that's how it always is, but you have to be able to codify that, and you have to be able to see that to the T for every person. So that process of building a organization like that is what I'm spending a lot of my time on also.
Okay, I think what you're trying to say is basically जो talented लोग होते हैं उनको फिर वो एक environment देना पड़ता है जहाँ पे वो grow करें. You have to equip them with all the...
measure करना चाहिए ना. Additionally मैं कह रहा हूँ कि measurement criteria same होने चाहिए. तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल लेट्स से मेरे मेजरमेंट क्राइटेरियाज क्या है, आपका अवार्ड कन्वर्जन रेट क्या हुआ, आपने प्रेस कितना जीता आपके काम के लिए. तो हम हर एक काम के लिए क्या प्रेस आया ट्रैक करते हैं.
जरूरी है, होना चाहिए,
जरूरी है. बिकॉज उससे ही आपको कंपाउंड करके दिखेगा कि किसकी हिट रेट सबसे ज़्यादा है. सेकेंड इज हम ट्रैक करते हैं कि काम का एंगेजमेंट रेट क्या है, कंबाइंड क्यूमुलेटिव आपके काम का. सेकंड इज अगर आपने फिल्म लिखी तो आपके फिल्म का व्यू थ्रू रेट क्या है. व्यू थ्रू रेट आपको दिखाता है ऑडियंस को पसंद है कि नहीं.
राइट.
हम लोग ट्रैक करते हैं एवरी 60 डेज पे क्लाइंट सेटिस्फैक्शन स्कोर. तो क्लाइंट सेटिस्फैक्शन स्कोर भी 6 पैरामीटर पे ट्रैक करते हैं. उसमें क्वालिटी ऑफ द क्रिएटिव वर्क इज़ वन ऑफ द पैरामीटर्स, तो उसको हम स्पेसिफिकली ट्रैक करते हैं. अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ द ब्रीफ, क्वालिटी ऑफ द क्रिएटिव आउटपुट एट्सेट्रा. तो ये हुआ अवार्ड्स कन्वर्जन, प्रेस ट्रैकिंग, परफॉर्मेंस ऑफ द वर्क, क्लिक थ्रू, ओपन थ्रू, व्यू थ्रू, वो सब ब्लेंडेड पैरामीटर्स प्लस क्लाइंट सेटिस्फैक्शन. और ऑफ कोर्स अल्टीमेटली रिफ्लेक्ट होता है बिलिंग में. तो आपके क्लाइंट ने आपके साथ बिलिंग कितना किया. तो ये सब फैक्टर्स कुल मिला के आपको रैंकिंग मिल सकती है आपके टॉप 100 लोगों की. और फिर आपको पता चलेगा कि कौन क्या ड्राइव कर रहा है. एंड सेकेंड इज द मैनेजमेंट कैपेबिलिटी. सो वी ऑल्सो ट्रैक द नेट प्रमोटर स्कोर ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर टीम. कि अगर आप एक मैनेजर हो और आपके साथ 8 लोग काम कर रहे हैं तो उनका नेट प्रमोटर स्कोर क्या है, क्या वो उनके फ्रेंड्स को बोलेंगे ये टीम ज्वाइन करने के लिए कि नहीं. तो उसके हिसाब से आपको पता चल जाता है कि कौन से लीडर भी अच्छे हैं. तो ये सब मिला के एक सिस्टम बन सकती है जहाँ पे मेरिट विंस. और फिर एनवायरनमेंट क्रिएट करना तो फिर कंपनी का काम है.
राइट. आई थिंक पीपल आर गोइंग टू फाइंड सो मच वैल्यू आउट ऑफ दिस, बिकॉज हम एजेंसी चालू कर लेते हैं बहुत सारे लोग, लेकिन उन्हें ये सब इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं मिलता है.
मतलब मैंने अभी कितने 17 साल होने को आए, घिस के काम किया है और ये सब अभी
That is true. That is true. Of course, it's
2008 में शुरू किया था मैंने.
Which is why I started the podcast, क्योंकि I'm like मैं आपसे बात कर सकती हूँ और आपसे इन्फॉर्मेशन ये सब पूछ सकती हूँ, लेकिन कितना हेल्पफुल होगा अगर जो आज कर रहे हैं ये सब वो देख सकें कि अच्छा अगर ये एक फॉर्मेट है फॉर एग्जाम्पल तो ये ऐसा करना चाहिए, बिकॉज वी डिडंट हैव दैट राइट व्हेन वी वर स्टार्टिंग आउट इन दिस इंडस्ट्री इन व्हाटएवर डिफरेंट फील्ड. सो और
ये बाय द वे 17 साल के बाद घिस के प्रॉब्लम्स और भी कंपाउंड हो रहे हैं. ऐसा भी नहीं है कि ओके सक्सेस बोल सकते हो कि इतना सारा ये है वो है, उसके बावजूद भी प्रॉब्लम्स है, अभी उसको टैकल करने हैं.
वो तो
you know there is the formula for success is IQ plus EQ plus PQ, which is a persistent quotient, how persistent you are.
PQ तक मैं नहीं पहुंची हूँ. AQ I have done that. persistently how you're succeeding.
हाँ.
Correct. I'm coming to that. Before that, I want to ask you कि आजकल जो बहुत सारा marketing budget पहले बहुत divide होता था अलग अलग चीज़ों में, अब बहुत सारा online आ गया है. इंटर फुल मार्केटिंग में हम देख रहे हैं, और मैंने रिपोर्ट्स जो मैं पढ़ती हूँ उसमें दिख रहा है कि बहुत सारा अब मार्केटिंग बजट ऑनलाइन और डिजिटल ही हो गया है. डिजिटल फर्स्ट. और पहले ऐसा नहीं था, पहले डिजिटल पे कम स्पेंड होता था, अब ज़्यादा स्पेंड हो रहा है. इन्फ्लुएंसर्स आर टेकिंग अ बिग पार्ट एट बिग चंक ऑफ इट नाउ. मतलब 5 साल पहले वो स्टार्ट हुआ था, अब इतना हो रहा है. बट टुडे एज वी स्पीक AI इन्फ्लुएंसर्स आ रहे हैं. तो हाउ इज दैट गोइंग टू अफेक्ट इन्फ्लुएंसर मार्केटिंग for influencers and content creators?
So पहले तो देखते हैं जो कमेंट आपने कहा कि डिजिटल पे स्पेंड ज़्यादा आ रहा है. डिजिटल पे स्पेंड क्यों ज़्यादा आ रहा है? बिकॉज डिजिटल का कंजम्पशन इंक्रीज हो रहा है. तो अगर आप 4 साल पहले देखोगे तो नंबर ऑफ यूजर्स ऑन सोशल प्लस डिजिटल टुगेदर वुड बी 300 मिलियन, एंड नाउ इट इज़ टचिंग ऑन 800-900 मिलियन. तो ऑब्वियसली रीच इंक्रीज हो रहा है, इसलिए स्पेंड इंक्रीज हो रहा है. नाउ उसका एक सबसेट है इन्फ्लुएंसर्स, और इन्फ्लुएंसर्स का सबसेट है AI इन्फ्लुएंसर्स. तो मेरे हिसाब से अभी तक मैंने तो ज़्यादा नहीं देखा कि ज़्यादा पैसा जा रहा है AI इन्फ्लुएंसर्स की ओर, और ज़्यादा फॉलोइंग भी नहीं जा रहा AI इन्फ्लुएंसर्स की ओर मेरे हिसाब से. तो मेरे हिसाब से अभी तक इन्फ्लुएंसर मार्केटिंग की इकोनॉमी स्टेबल है, और इतना जितना है उतनी रहेगी. मैं नहीं प्रिडिक्ट करता हूँ कि इन्फ्लुएंसर मार्केटिंग इकोनॉमी इतने तेज़ ग्रोथ रेट से स्केल अप होगी जितनी आज तक हुई है. मैं मानता हूँ कि हम लोग एक नॉट सैचुरेशन बट नाउ लिंक टू इंडस्ट्री ग्रोथ रेट इट विल ग्रो.
मतलब
अगर इंडस्ट्री डिजिटल स्पेंड्स आर ग्रोइंग एट 12%, इन्फ्लुएंसर विल ग्रो एट 12%. इट विल नॉट आउटपेस what
correct
the rest of the spend is.
Understood. So that is the future of influencer
yeah, I mean, it's still
marketing.
good.
It's good for the, क्योंकि लोग बोलते हैं कि ये मतलब एक सैचुरेशन पॉइंट पर पहुंच जाएगा बिकॉज कितने सारे क्रिएटर्स हैं, कितने सारे इन्फ्लुएंसर्स हो गए हैं, एंड देन ऑल्सो डिफरेंट कैटेगरीज के डिफरेंट हो गए, तो स्पेंड्स वहाँ पे भी हो रहा है. सो वी आर सीइंग द इंक्रीज, बट एट सम पॉइंट इट विल बिकम एवरेज आउट बिटवीन द इन्फ्लुएंसर्स ऑफ डिफरेंट इंडस्ट्रीज, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like that will eventually happen, right? Now for the fun questions. Harshil, are employees replaceable?
Some are not, some are irreplaceable, but you can build a system which is resilient enough if they go. But there's a lot of people who are replaceable.
Because of their skills or personality or what?
It's always a combination of both. It's always a combination of both. Skill, personality, attitude, just the heart that they bring.
Okay. Tell me something about the Gen Z mindset that you don't agree with.
There's nothing I don't agree with, honestly. Like I feel like there's been we are now past that. I'm like,
as an employer, do you see a difference?
You know, like I'm not Palki Sharma. So
no, I meant to say, is there a difference in working style between a millennial and a Gen Z?
I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think so. Like, and I can say that with confidence now. We are in 2025. I think in every workforce, you just have a lot more people in the workforce now. But in every workforce, you'll have a bunch of people who really want to get ahead. You'll have a bunch of people who want to keep it easy. And you'll have a bunch of people who don't give a damn.
Yep.
So you will have all three. Now, what percentage are skewed inside your organization? That's your responsibility. But I don't think like, I mean, I just feel like I think this whole Gen Z's a particular way is I feel like overwritten about.
Okay.
I think.
I would say
I mean, maybe at the risk of being cancelled by Gen Z, I feel like you're just like the previous generation. You just consume different things and you just look different.
Look different. Look different. He's gone on look different. I'm playing it safe. No, but like I feel like there is a difference because Gen Zs come with maybe a lot more opinion and a lot more staunch opinion, which is very good because they give you that kind of input that millennials maybe in a certain way would not. Millennials come with more of a hard-working, sustainably long, persistent journey that I feel like because Gen Z has a lot of options they don't have. And I know I'm kind of generalizing, but there is that difference. And across...
If you'd put yesterday's millennials in today's environment, they would behave the same. I don't think
there would be some different traits for them.
Yeah, I mean, by and large, the whole population, you put it all together in one mixer, it would turn out exactly the same. So it's like, I feel like it's the time that has changed, not the fundamental people that have changed. Also, you have to understand that for us to understand that India is a lot richer than it was in terms of disposable income. So you gotten used to a certain taste of life and you want to enjoy that taste of life. Also because you got way more things that you're exposed to, you're way more opinionated as a result of that because you're a lot more exposed. So you have a sharper point of view. You've grown up in a content first generation. So I think people are always people. And the time is different.
Right. How do you balance working with a family member? Because you work with your brother. How is that? Like, I'm sure it's not like, do you take that home? Does that ever happen where you have taken the work back home because it's a part of your family?
Yeah, it can get tricky, especially with brothers. It can get tricky, especially also if you have if you're the older brother or the younger brother. In my case, I'm the older brother, so I'm sure it's sometimes difficult for my younger brother to deal with me. And similarly, I mean, for him as well, for me also, for me to deal with him on certain things, like there's certain things I have to keep my decorum on in terms of how direct I can be. So I think sometimes, possibly if I had to just be very, very precise about it with family, there's a strength, which is that you know you're always safe. And with family, the other side is that you probably can't be as direct as you
would be
otherwise,
okay,
necessarily, because you have to keep the decorum of the relationship. At the same time, if there's a genuine desire or an impact to serve the same goal, then you can achieve that. And then there's I guess, with family, a lot of things are implicit. You got to feel it. So if you feel safe, secure, you feel like we're walking towards the same thing, then it's all good.
Right. Okay. Another one on that. Your co-founder, Akshay Gurnani, has left Schbang after 10 years. Was that hard on you professionally and also emotionally, because it's been a long journey?
Emotionally, probably not. Professionally, I think definitely he left a lot of he had a lot of strong contributions to what we built at Schbang over the years. So I have respect for all the contributions that he had towards the journey of Schbang. So from that professional standpoint, those professional achievements will always be respected and counted upon. And emotionally, it wasn't emotionally it wasn't a very it didn't impact me as much.
Personally, it did not.
Yeah.
Because you kept your personal and emotions separately at work. Because when you work with somebody for that long, I feel like you do get invested in them a little bit personally and emotionally.
Perhaps. So you're right about the fact that you could get invested personally and emotionally into a person. In this particular case, I wasn't as much. Probably also because I've been through an experience where I have, in my previous agency, also worked very closely with co-founders, and then went on to leave to build on another enterprise. So I think my makeup is probably such that I always saw myself and I was the captain driving the ship. So I continue with my responsibility. I had certain co-conspirators who were helping me on that journey. I continue to have them. The role changes, the responsibility changes. You have respect for the contributions that were there behind, and you're grateful for them and thankful for them. But I didn't reach a stage where I was emotionally connected, charged in that sense.
Do you think that that's important when you're at work, wherein you have to keep it separate from having anything to do with them personally? It'll help in situations like this if they move on.
Honestly, it depends the kind of person you are and the kind of experiences you had. You asked me when I was 20 years old, when I was doing my first agency, we got along like a pack of cards. We would have this immense sense of deep brotherhood to really, bear your utmost self to your colleagues and your co-founders. And then I started seeing that it's becoming more towards, I'm also bearing it towards my colleagues. And then we're going into a different topic now of boundaries, but where the so I'll give you an example. We used to have bets where if something didn't happen, my colleague would bet against me that I'd be in boxers the entire day roaming around office versus that. So it's like a very frat boy culture. Probably a lot of the things that we did back then would leave us cancelled today. I've seen that, and I've seen the ability to build with a longer vision. And I think the ability to build with a longer vision, to be dispassionate about you have to respect the strength of the relationship. You have to be able to connect at a very deeply personal level, but also recognize that work is not family. Family is a lot deeper in terms of personal relationship. So I've understood and learned that. So for me, I'm very clear that where the depth of my personal relationships go, where the extremely deep personal relationships go, is outside of the workplace. Yes, you may have one or two people in your workplace that you are deeply connected with, but that's at a personal level. That's not at a work level necessarily. It has certain advantages that you can bring into work and certain disadvantages as well. But fundamentally, when you're building the workplace, you're in service of the vision. And my vision at Schbang is very clear. I named to you the 6 major holding groups, which are French, Japanese, American, British. And there is no major global Indian network across the world, which is what I am building.
Okay. Harshil, do you think you are a good leader?
I think you have to ask my colleagues.
No, I'm asking you. What do you think about it?
I think I've improved a lot over the years. And I think, I've improved a lot over the years. I'm happy with my progress.
Okay. Harshil, Schbang was the agency that came out with the Poonam Pandey campaign about her fake death, sorry. And so I wanted to ask you, what did you do to curb this situation, and how did you work around it after it happened? Like, what damage control did you have to do after that?
That was probably a period of a lot of growing up for me in terms of certain skill on managing public relations. I think, no doubt, and I've apologized for it, it was not in good taste. What I feel a bit of a consolation prize is 2024 cervical cancer was among the top 3 search terms on Google. So it's a bit of a consolation prize, but it doesn't take away from the fact that the work wasn't necessarily in good taste. I also reflected a bit on the work, which is that actually if we had found a woman called Poonam Pandey who had actually died of cervical cancer, and we had put that out, and the real Poonam Pandey would have said is that there is actually somebody called Poonam Pandey, it's just not me.
Okay.
And I'm forcing you to take awareness of this issue. So if really the fact was a fact,
then it would have played out better.
Yeah, it would have played out a lot more like intelligently, I guess. It was deceitful around death, which people didn't appreciate. So what I learned in a nutshell is I learned that actually, if you look at your list of stakeholders and fortify your stakeholders, the first thing I was advised at that time was that fortify the things that are closest to you. So fortify your entire workforce. It happened on a Saturday. On a Saturday, of course, full day I was at the office. Sunday, full day I was at the office. Monday morning, we had a meeting with the entire workforce of Schbang, telling them that, look, we've made a mistake. This is what has happened. This is how it's transpired. This is what we are doing. And probably you're going to face a lot of shame in dealing with your clients and your family members. So here is what has already been done to talk to your clients. So on Sunday night, I sent personally a message to over 600 different clients saying, this has happened. We take responsibility. We request you to please let work go on with your teams as is. They don't know anything about it. And here is what we are doing to make amends. So what happens is that anybody who's working in this company under my leadership should not face the wrath of a mistake that is caused by a single set of individuals. Because yes, we are one, and the impact of we are one is also if one person makes a mistake, it's it's on everybody. So some people are uncomfortable. How do I even discuss this with somebody else? So the moment you've taken responsibility, the weight is off their shoulder to apologize. So that was one of the first things we did, which is the circle closest to you. Your team, your workforce is what you first fortify. So that's the first thing that we did. We did also a whole host of committees on fortifying how this doesn't happen again. From the investigation of how that did, we launched an internal investigation on exactly breaking down how this went by and what steps we need to take in the future. So that's part of the team. The second was the clients. So certain clients had more concerns. We lost also a few clients post that, because it was a public relations nightmare to be associated with somebody like us at that time. Was difficult on some clients as well. We had a client who was in the ethics committee of a large corporate, said that I just can't continue to work with you. So it's loss of significant business. So the second was to fortify with the clients, have open dialogue with the clients, talk to them about how much they want to investigate into what we are doing and how this came about transparently. That was the second. And then the third lesson was that the things that you can't control, just don't respond to that. So you're in the middle of a media storm. The only thing you can do is duck, stand your ground, say that, yes, I acknowledge there was a mistake, stick to that and nothing else. Don't say anything else. There were a whole host of other things that could have broken down, which is probably a discussion for another day. We're too raw in it. There were things about, potentially the person in question saying even more wrong things about us, because there were some of those things as well. There was actually one of the things that I was most upset about was a damning article on LinkedIn by a gentleman called Mahesh Murthy. Now, I used to look up to Mahesh Murthy. We're speaking about mentors. I used to look up to Mahesh Murthy. I saw him first in 2006, founder of a company called Pinstorm, back in the day, one of the pioneers of the digital marketing space. He wrote a damning article saying, look, you've got actually a client in this space. So you've done this work for a client and you've done it in the garb of a public service campaign, but X client has funded you.
Oh.
It was, firstly, factually totally incorrect. He's connected a few dots, but factually totally incorrect. Conjecture labeled as fact. So I called him up. I said, so I've actually followed your work since 2006 and I'm in a bit of a soup, and what you said, I need your help because it's totally untrue and I just would wish that you pull it down right now, because it's not true. It maybe makes good content for your LinkedIn, but it's going to do a lot of reputational damage for me and it's going to do a lot of damage for my business. And he turned around and he, almost like an investigative journalist, he asked me, prove to me that this is wrong. So then I knew I was dealing with a person who is more interested in being relevant than in really perhaps being a person who is a champion of the industry. I had to face the brunt of that. It was what he wrote about in LinkedIn was in Economic Times the next day. Lots of business loss. So there were some things I couldn't control. Him, I couldn't control. The press, I couldn't control. To our people, I could give them strength and transparency and acknowledgement of the issue. To our clients, I could give the same. And definitely big thanks to all the clients who really supported us through the period. There was lots of clients who said, yes, this is a one-off. We know this is not what you guys stand for. And it's a mistake. Reflect on it and move on. There's lots of those messages. And then there were the few where it just didn't align with their values and they pulled out. And few which got dragged into public controversy and pulled out. So yeah, it was a difficult period. Probably the hardest public relations crisis, if you may, that I had to face.
Okay, Harshil, you spoke about how you dealt with this situation professionally. I wanted to ask you how you dealt with it personally. Like, how do you come out from something that is so public?
There was a lot of people who wrote on my LinkedIn saying, shut up, we just don't want you to speak again. There was probably within the agency circles, there was a lot of, we always knew something like this would happen at Schbang. There was also like, oh, this is a standard of creativity at Schbang. So there was a lot of pressure with respect to like drowning you out. So I was affected by it in the sense that it was difficult to deal with. But I knew that if we just focused on the basic principles, that like how do we add more value to the customers, how do we add more process to the workplace, and how do we continue to make it a better workplace for people, then we will walk out of it. So we that's what I continue to focus on, and that's always gives me peace when I focus back on that. So that's how I dealt with it personally, to focus on the things that are controllable and that will add disproportionate value to the organization journey going forward. So I just focused on that, and I think I was okay. Personally, I wasn't so affected, to be honest.
Oh, really? Okay. Because you are able to keep your emotions, I feel like, more in check than other people.
I'm a lot older than most people who are entering this industry. So, or even your viewers. So I guess age has
It does.
It like
plays a factor.
Age has a advantage.
But on that, do you think that, and maybe I'm saying this with certain kind of a look into your professional life from afar, that early on, because there's so much zest and enthusiasm and so much of like willingness to like, we have to do this, do you think that maybe when we're younger, we take like a lot of reckless decisions, a lot of things that we didn't think through at that time, and then that has changed? Because not only you, I've seen that with a lot of other founders who are now at in their 30s, for example, and when you look at what they did in their 20s, they would be like, we could have done this in a little bit more in a better fashion, if you know what I mean. Like, that's something that I think comes with age. And I think that maturity, little bit, if I could say, women have a little bit earlier and men do it a little bit later. We look at that as a, personally, we look at it wherein women mature faster.
Yeah.
But I've seen that at the workplace also.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you think of your journey like that?
Yeah, I was giving you the example of taking bets and being in boxers all day. So that is
that is fun.
Peak reckless. I mean, in terms of like not the act in itself, but it shows you the mindset. So there's a lot of reckless. I think I've spoken also about how I left my first agency with a lot of money on the table, leaving and not getting my full due as a result of that. Quite reckless.
Was that the reckless part, or the way that you left, you said, was reckless?
Both. So the way I left was also reckless, and the fact that I didn't...
if today you had to do the same thing, what would you tell your partners?
I would say, you guys leave. I'm the guy who's running this.
That's what you would say.
Yeah. But I'll take care of you this way. We can arrive at a deal which makes sense for you, and let me continue to run the place.
Harshil, if you're always in the driving seat, do you think somebody else could be in the driving seat and you could ever sit on the other side?
I've realized this about myself. I'm a solo founder, and I'm building Schbang with my brother. So that's, we have that respect for each other to be able to do it. But I'm a driver's seat person.
Certain type of people take a while to understand how other people function because they come from a higher level of understanding of things. For example, with you, because you're so keenly observant and so, I would say, very smart, very high IQ. What happens in that process is that because you don't think like everybody else, which is great, which is why you've reached where you are, but because you can't think like everybody else, it's difficult for you to understand why a certain person would do something because you're not at the same level of understanding of them.
I've never had that problem.
No. Okay.
Because maybe what problem I've had is that I've had a problem of not being able to express what's in my head very clearly, and the clarity not translating through. So in my head, I might think it's clear and the other person doesn't think it's clear, and the task is not fulfilled as a result. And when I mean a task, it would be a 3-year task, but the task is not fulfilled. But I feel like, so I've tried to work a lot at that by being more coherent, by breaking down the problem, by slowing down my own thoughts, combination of that. So I don't think that's a problem that people have had to deal with. But yeah, to some extent, maybe in personal relationships, maybe that has translated. Or in professional relationships, that has translated. So
okay, Harshil, at the end, I want to ask you, difficult one for me to ask also, but like, why do so many people say that Schbang has a toxic work culture? Have you ever heard that?
I've heard that. So I think, in my view, and I have studied this because that's exactly what when I said I spent a lot of my time solving for a meritocratic workplace, what I observed in reflection is that the workplace grew from a 300 member workplace to a 1,000 member workplace in the smack in the middle of COVID. It was literally 15-month journey where we grew 4 times the size in 15 months versus what we had taken from 2015 to 2020. 5 years we were 300 people, and then within 6.5 years we were 1,000 people. So we had insane amount of addition. Our systems weren't ready to manage that kind of workforce. We were also in a place where we had a workforce which was virtual. So empathy was naturally reduced. And as a result of that, I think we probably, while we grew to 1,000 members, we were probably 200 people more than we needed. So we were also in a difficult business environment because and a lot of companies did this, right? Like we were at a very microscopic level, but at a industry level, you had the Googles and the Facebooks who had hired significantly during the period of COVID and then realized, hey, COVID is over. The growth that you're seeing is not necessarily going to be equally to what you saw in this period. And now you need to downsize. We didn't really downsize. We didn't lay anybody off. But what we were in the middle of was we were in the middle of an environment which was a difficult business environment where within 1 year, the margin dropped to 1/3 of what it was.
Okay.
So if hypothetically we were at 18%, we were down to 6% on margin. So we were at that wafer thin place where I'm telling founders not to operate. So naturally, that's a challenging business environment. To walk out of a challenging business environment, you have to put your head down and you need to make a few changes. You need to make a few hard calls. And probably in the midst of those hard calls, probably in the midst of the growing from 300 to 1,000 overnight, probably in the midst of then making the workplace process compliant while going through business challenges, some people may have felt like they didn't have the best experience. But I can confidently say that we have a very good future that we are building on a highly meritocratic structure, a structure which rewards outcomes, a structure which is very transparent. And we're adhering to bring more and more transparency every single day into what we do. So the reality is there for people to see, and I guess in a few years' time it will translate to business success as well. So we are working hard towards that.
And what do you see Schbang going and becoming in the future?
I wish that we are a truly global force to reckon with, and the largest independently owned agency in India by a mile. I wish that we're able to serve all segments of the market with very high quality work, catered to their needs, well awarded. I wish that people build great careers at Schbang. I wish that some select few's dreams are fulfilled in the journey of what we build. I wish we can do all of that.
That's great. I think the information that you have given is like very, very informative for people who are going to watch. Whether it doesn't have to be lots of people, but that people watching are going to find it very, very valuable.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for watching another episode. If you have any thoughts, please leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.